Welcome back to another Canton Bourbon Boyz video. We got something a little different and special for you today. Every year, probably since 2017, 2018, our group has been making a large group bourbon trip down to the trail. And every year, I mean, since the beginning, it's been pretty easy to book random tours and kind of do some random things, hitting different distilleries every time we went down. But eventually, as many of you know that have been going to the trail year after year, a lot of these tours are very similar. A lot of these experiences are very similar. If you go to the same distilleries just because you like them, you don't want to repeat a tour or repeat a tasting because you already know their products. You've already been down there. You've already tried it. So we have been recently trying to mix in some very different, unique experiences that people would really enjoy. So we got lucky enough to hook up with Jackie Zykan, and we kind of created a little event that we would do a sensory type class and taste 4 extremely rare bourbons. And Jackie was graceful enough to grab 4 of her bourbons from her collection that were unique, different, and something that we weren't going to get a chance to try at all. So we got to try these, do a sensory class, and kind of BS with Jackie for a good 2-3 hours. So we've condensed this video down to give you guys kind of an idea of what it would be like to have a little experience with Jackie and something a little different on the trail. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Put some comments below. Let me know what you guys like, what you guys don't like, and let me know if you're curious about doing an event like this, and we could try to hook you up. But stay tuned for this latest video and enjoy.
Did anybody not get a box?
I need a brown box on the corner of the island. Jan, you got one?
Thank you.
I think brown.
Brown?
Yeah, she's good.
Huh? What?
Yeah. Now they're good.
I might grab one.
Is there a spot you want to go there?
If you're, I'm going to be like, I'm so comfy right here. If you guys are comfy with me right here.
You want to sit down?
If you need.
Me? No. I'll follow you if I sit.
I'm gonna sit over here. Get out of Jackie's way a little bit.
You're good.
You guys are good. We're done. Yeah. Table, chairs, wherever you want to sit. Jackie's gonna stay up on.
Alright, so everybody's going to have a black box and a brown box. We got it. You got it. Good stuff. Notice that brown box has a lot of aromas coming out of it. We'll get there. We're going to get all up in this. In your black box, you have 4 tasting glasses. You have 4 samples of whiskey. They are rolled up in tissue paper behind those glasses. Heads up in case you're just like, it's Christmas morning and like shit flies everywhere. Like, there's glass in there. It's kind of like Christmas.
Yes, it is.
Right? But you do have 4 samples.
Oh, yeah. There they are.
And let me say this from the get-go. Hi, I'm Jackie Zykan. I am, until July 1st, the Master Taster of Old Forester. I put in my resignation last week so that I know that I have not announced publicly what the next project is, but you just met 2 of the guys that are part of it downstairs. But it will be independent work, so it will be consulting and doing fun things. Nice. So I'm excited. I apologize ahead of time. I'm covered in literally spiderwebs and dirt and all kinds of shit because I've been in northern Kentucky picking barrels all day. Welcome to Kentucky. This is everyone's story. They're like, sorry, I'm dirty and drunk, but you know, it's fine. It's 5:59 p.m. It's okay.
Makes me feel a little better being a sweatball.
Yeah, there's no shame in Kentucky. You're here, you know. So,
I didn't have shots.
in your box, you have 4 separate samples. They are listed 1, 2, 3, 4. They're in increasing proof order. That's how we're gonna taste through these. You can pour a little bit, you can pour the whole thing, however you want to, in these glasses. Keep your box at the end of this. It's easiest for me if you can just like, it doesn't have to be pretty, but like jam it back into jam it back into the box.
There.
Sounds so bad. I know.
Can't everybody with that.
But before we start tasting through whiskey, we're gonna do a little exercise because there is, scientifically speaking, something called a super taster. A super taster is somebody who can detect more obscure and tiny amounts of different things in liquid, and this all comes down to how many taste buds you have. So there's 2 parts to being a good whiskey taster. There's building a sensory bank, which we're gonna do with this smelly little box. You also have the brown box, so ignore that for a second. We're gonna get into some weird shit. It's gonna be fun. But outside of that, if you don't have a massive amount of taste buds, your sensitivity isn't there the same way it is for those who do. So you ever heard this whole concept of like women are better tasters than men? Mm-hmm. Everyone's heard this at least once. Sorry, it's mostly men. Like you'll get over it very quickly, I promise you. You could trade. You could also be a more sensitive taster, but you're gonna have to carry children. That's the trade-off. Oh, I think I'll just stick with drinking whiskey and not thinking twice about it. Okay, sounds good. The whole point of that is that women, because you are carrying a fetus, anything that you eat, fetus also eats. So the more able you are to detect something toxic that could harm your offspring, the better you are, right? The more likely your offspring will survive if you have a more sensitive palate. More sensitive palate just means more taste buds. And so this whole idea of like women are better tasters than men, it's an evolutionary advantage. That's all it comes down to. And so we're gonna go through, there is a card in your black box. It's very bare bones basic. It's a little cardboard card and it's got 4 strips on it. We're gonna go through these. Don't share your card with a friend. Your card is your card. That is only for your spit, only for your experience. Yeah, it's gonna get, we're gonna spit on things and you know, it's gonna be fine. Everything's okay. You do have water. If at any point you need more water, like just get up and get some water. I'm not going to be like, oh, like I'm not that person, trust me. But we are going to go through this first and foremost because I'm sure there's people in here that are like, I'm really into whiskey. Like I'm all about the whiskey. And there's some people that are probably like, yeah, I don't know, like I really do and I don't like. But let's see. I don't know. So we're going to go through one by one of these slips. Okay?
Yeah.
And they're not all the same. Alright. Yeah, I know, like it's gonna be crazy. But we're gonna go through one by one just to see who detects what, because it's interesting. And then everyone can brag about it later, right? Because that's what we're really here for, isn't it? Is bragging rights. Sure. Alright.
I was just here to get drunk.
Every single one of these cards, I know exactly what every single one of those strips is too. I have these very professional cheat sheets of Post-it notes in my pocket, so like ignore me for that. But here we go. Go ahead and grab strip number 1 off that card. You can take it off the card too, like you don't have to like lick the card, that could be awkward. I can see how that would be a weird experience. But take strip number 1 and gently place it on your tongue.
Acid? Do an acid count.
Ink side or
This is where it got fun.
Inside or backside or front side?
She said we were drinking whiskey and then I saw a bunch of colors, I don't know what happened. Okay, did you taste anything when you touched it to your tongue? Raise your hand if you did. Yes? You did?
Weird taste.
A weird taste. How do you describe it?
It's almost, at first it was like sour.
Is it sweet?
Sour. That's what I got.
Sour?
Yeah.
Sour.
So I got
Bitter?
Yeah.
Bitter?
It's paper.
Okay. All right. Ooh, that's interesting. All right. Anyone not get shit on strip number 1? Nothing?
We just leave.
Yeah, nothing.
Watch it, she's gonna say
That's cool.
You just tasted pig?
Both sides are the same. It doesn't matter what side you like. You could chew on it.
I got ink.
The whole strip is saturated with a particular chemical.
big flavor.
It's harmless, I promise.
We're all gonna drop.
All right, but keep in mind, you either did or you didn't with strip number 1, right?
Yep.
Set it down. If you need to set it in a separate pile, that's cool too. I tasted bitter on number 1. I'll share my experience with you. So like there's that.
It's like licking
Like a stamp?
an envelope or a stamp, yeah.
Okay.
Thumbs no.
Where you used to lick
So you
stamps?
tasted paper.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, that's just paper. That's
All right, red strip number 2.
Should we drink water in
Should
between?
we rinse?
No, you'll taste it. If you're gonna taste it, you'll taste it.
Alright.
Yeah, make sure you see
Oh.
Whoa, you got that one, didn't you? Okay. No?
That one tastes like mint.
Tastes like poison? Is that what you just said? How much poison do you usually
I've been
take?
waiting a lot.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't trust her now. I don't know.
I don't think they're supposed to taste good, but
Oh,
That tastes good.
That's bad.
Kind of typical.
stronger than number 1.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe
Yeah.
not. Anyone not taste anything on number 2? Because it's possible that you don't.
I don't
That's
like
okay. You didn't?
Very
You
little.
didn't?
Yeah.
I got
Little.
stronger.
It's good though, whatever it is.
Like a
You got it.
I
The D-cell battery is out.
battery
You know
acid.
Batteries.
Explains a lot.
All right.
Give me that
Are
card.
they
Again, keep it
getting
up.
Give me that
They're all in randomized order. So like, they're all different at the moment. I
lingering.
know. This is where it's fun for me until it's not. But it's fine.
God.
All right, strip number 3.
As long as
Same
you're
thing.
going too. I'm nervous. Yeah.
Citrus. I think.
Buttery.
Yeah.
That's nothing. Salty.
What are you actually doing?
Salty.
Turn back around.
Yeah, I get butter.
All right, anyone not taste anything on number 3?
Yeah.
Okay, quite a few of us. We're just like, no, it ain't there.
No.
It's like newspaper.
Paper.
Like newspaper. Okay, that's really fun. Help yourself to number 4.
Don't worry if I do.
Get all up in there. Get all up in that number 4.
Sweet.
But then I got
Think of it in these terms, right? Does it taste like sour? Is it like acidic? Like biting into a
No.
lemon?
Sweet.
Not this one.
Does it taste sweet? Like sugar? Sugar water?
Yeah, that one's sweet to me.
I think
Or does it just taste like I just put a piece of paper in my mouth?
Bingo.
All 4 of them.
Okay.
You're the master taster.
You win the
That's right.
prize! Get up here and lead the tasting. Alright.
Bingo. Everything was incredibly faint though, but
It's meant to be.
yeah.
It is. But so, and I will say this, even in the lab, some people are blind to certain chemicals, smells, tastes, the whole thing. Even if they have a very sensitive palate and can assess the quality of different distilled spirits, every now and then somebody comes through our group at work anyways and is like, I don't get it, I don't know what you're talking about, because they're blind to it. The way that it works, you've got a molecule that's a certain shape, right? You've got like a triangle. This is so simplified, but like hang with me for a second.
You can get nerdy with them. They're chemical engineers.
Okay. You have a triangle, right? If you don't have a receptor that fits a triangle, you're not going to experience a triangle because it's just not going to latch, it's not going to work. Some people just don't have the receptors for certain things, and that's why it's important to have a lot of people taste everything all the time. You can't just ever have one person. If I get colds, they don't stop making the whiskey. It doesn't work that way. We have a great team. But someone at the end of the day has to say like, no, this is what the brand flagship is, and this is what we support and what we don't. So that's where my position kind of was with the Forster anyways. With these particular strips, one of these is a control strip. So if you've said you've tasted something on every single one of them,
Yeah. Liars.
you're a liar.
Liars.
I know. On the back of your card, there is a number, so we all know who you are. And I made it easy.
I win.
Evens and odds, okay? So come back to this. Who tasted something on number 1? This is easier. Who did not taste something on number 1?
Okay.
What number is on the back of your card? Is it even or odd?
Even.
Even?
Odd.
You don't know what?
No, it's odd.
It's odd, okay. Odd.
Even.
Even. Okay, even. Odd.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. What about number 2? 2 is the most important.
Tasted or not tasted?
2 and 1 are the most important cards in this entire fucking deck. Oh my god. Okay, so let me do it this way, right? PTC is the most important marker here. The other ones are kind of like, yeah, okay, I get it. And then there's control. And if you said you tasted some in control, like I know, like you're full of it. If you have an odd number on the back of your card, PTC was your second strip.
Does that mean you're supposed to taste the worst? 'Cause that
It's strong. It's pungent. And it's bitter. And it's sharp. And it you definitely taste it.
was gross.
If you have an even number on your card, PTC was your first strip.
Still
So
feels
does anyone have an even
stamped.
number that didn't taste anything on the first strip? Okay, your third one. Let's talk about this. If you have an even number card and you did not taste the third one, raise your hand. You have an even card and you did not taste the third strip. It tasted like paper to you.
Yeah.
1, 2. You over here? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's sodium benzoate.
Oh, you're poisoned.
It's not, you're not poisoned. The most important part of this whole thing is the control. It is. So, if you had an odd number card, and number 3, go back to your 3 strip.
Yeah. Paper. Newspaper.
If you have an even number card, taste strip number 4. But most important marker on all of this, before we start going into actually tasting the whiskey, so that after I leave and everyone's like, well, you know, I'm a better whiskey taster than you because I picked up on this. If you have an odd number card and you tasted strip number 2 as being bitter, you are a super taster. Like scientific qualifications.
Even fruit tastes like paper.
So, you guys have 4 tubes of whiskey.
Yes, ma'am.
Help yourself to pour these out into your glasses.
You want all of it out?
It's up to you. Depends how thirsty you are. There's an ounce in each one. So, I mean, just make sure you remember what order you put them in. That's the most important part. So I'm not going to tell you what each of these expressions are. You have the proof on the bottle, right? So you know at least how much alcohol is in them, but I'm not going to tell you what they actually are. But in your brown box, you have 9 jars. Inside each of these jars is a cotton ball that has been treated with an aroma. Don't eat the cotton ball. You'd be surprised. I do have to say that. Every now and then you get someone that's curious, and that's okay.
There's always one.
Feel free to take them out if you want to. That's totally fine.
Got a bunch of
Totally
elves.
good.
Not competitive.
All right, I'm not going to tell you what's in the jars. You might come across a jar where you're like, I know exactly what that is. And we'll go one by one so that we can at least just like see who is and isn't right. I'll tell you after
As long
each
as
one.
it
Shout it out.
smell like too tasty.
But, so remember, 2 factors here, right? There's your predisposed number of taste buds that we kind of just played around with those strips. Some people taste things, some people don't. Totally fine. But then there's also a sensory bank. If you've never smelled cinnamon, you're never going to pick up a glass of whiskey and go, I get notes of cinnamon, because it's not locked in your brain to make the association. So what this type of training does is helps to really lock in what some of those isolated notes are for these particular whiskeys that we're talking about today. Because in every glass of whiskey, there's about 200 different aromatic compounds. And so like we'd be in jars for a very long time. So let's focus on some of the predominant ones. But when you go to smell a glass of whiskey, what is the first thing that you find that you notice?
Alcohol.
Alcohol. Exactly. Exactly.
That's true.
So the lowest proof in the set is 96.3. So even though these glasses aren't as narrow as a Glencairn glass, it's still important to note that you're going to shove a bunch of alcohol right up your nostrils, right? And so in order to divert that so that that's not the first thing you get, you're going to breathe in through your nose and your mouth at the same time. So just grab the first glass and try that. Breathing in through your nose and your mouth at the same time over the glass. It's not like wine where you're like, don't do that, you're going to burn your nose out. But through both. Ah. Oh. So then you're like, okay, it smells like whiskey, right? I know I have a glass of whiskey. Or so Jackie tells me, it's a glass of whiskey. And help yourself, because like, let's just take a sip, because we're here to drink whiskey anyways. Like, take a sip.
Or we'll do it.
Of the first one?
Yeah, of the first one, just to get it out of the way. Tastes like bourbon, smells like bourbon. I think it's bourbon. The label says bourbon. It must be bourbon.
It's quite good.
So when we do what is called descriptive analysis, there's 2 types of analysis, right? There's like what went wrong in the production process, and then there's somebody give me tasting notes. Descriptive analysis is tasting note writing. And there's two parts of it: identifying the prominent notes and then turning them into a fucking poem for a website. That's basically the other thing. So there you go. But for the first part of it, like I said, if you haven't built that sensory bank, then you're not going to pick up on certain things. So I welcome you all to open jar number 1 and give it a smell. Don't eat the cotton ball. No, see, that's where we get the troubles. People are like, I dare you to eat the cotton ball. Don't eat the cotton ball. What do you smell in that jar?
Something my wife used.
Vanilla. Chamomile?
It smells like
Root beer. Root beer.
like the way
You said root beer.
cocoa butter.
I taste
Cocoa butter. Good.
butter.
Okay.
I smell cocoa butter. Like hanging vanilla wafers. Maybe that's Roy.
So that was 1.
It's definitely not beer.
1 is what I like to think of as the free space on a bingo card in the world of tasting bourbon. Okay?
Yep.
That's basically what it is. It's always there. Every single glass in front of you has jar number 1 in it. It all does. All of it. 100%. And that's because the note in number 1 is coming directly from oak. This is vanillin in isolated format. So you said vanilla right up front. Vanilla is on that cotton ball. So it's like, oh, okay.
Vanilla wafers.
It's not like
Oak comes through, but like my idea of oak might be different than your idea of oak. You might think of sawdust, I might think of the char, someone else might think of a creme brulee kind of burnt sugar note, that all of that all fits into there. The thing into this though is that go back to glass number 1 and smell it. Now it smells like
Yeah, big time.
you smell the vanilla in glass number 1. Your brain is ready to receive it. You preset your brain for it. Yes, exactly.
Huh. So
Huh. Yeah.
What'd you say, Roy?
So, has anyone ever sort of like gone to like a perfume counter or something and saw a little shaker of coffee beans? Because it resets your nose so that you can smell different things. If you gave a shaker of coffee beans to someone doing whiskey tasting, they would just pick up coffee in every sample because coffee is a note in whiskey. So the way that we reset, and this is going to be important as we go through these, and you're like, it all smells the same. Like my nose is shot, like it all smells the same. Smell yourself. It's really weird unless you've bathed in bourbon, which I don't judge. Smell your skin. The back of your arm, the back of your hand. If you don't have perfume on, that's like key. That's why I was like, make sure no one wears cologne or perfume because smelling your skin and then coming back into it will refresh the way your brain is processing heavy aromatics.
You just smell like BO now?
Vanilla.
Robin came out of that basket.
Like jar number 5.
So
I love
root
it.
beer was wrong.
That's
No,
really
it's
good.
Huh?
Root beer.
That's really good.
Okay, well,
Okay.
lemon cookie.
It's okay because sometimes
Yeah.
this is the beautiful thing about sensory, right? This is what's beautiful about it. My brain right now is like, it smells like vanilla. It must be vanilla. Your mind can literally go, what was the last time I smelled vanilla? It was a root beer float that I had. And you're like, I smell root beer, but you don't smell root beer. You smell vanilla, but there is an association. It's just a firing of neurons is all that's going on. So it's interesting that way. This is why we do this. When you go to train to do descriptive analysis, and Brown-Forman specifically is the only one I can talk to. I didn't like work for Heaven Hill. We go through 200 different isolated compounds that you have to blindly identify every single one of them in a row at random because you have to lock it into your mind, right? You have to, or you're not going to be able to pick it out in a glass of a whole bunch of them. So, but there's a really good system for this. This is the key to tasting and smelling whiskey in general. So, because I go through a lot of bourbon tastings and people are like, everyone says they smell that and I don't smell that. Well, either you don't have the sensitivity, you've never smelled it before, or you are paying way too much attention to what everybody else thinks, which like don't ever do that anyways in the first place. So, but it's important to lock them in isolated form, but you're also going into a glass that's 200 aromatics, right? Which one's gonna stand out to you the most? The one that's the highest concentration? Maybe, but if you've never smelled that before in your life, it's not. So you have to break it into categories. And so there's 5 of those. There's sweet aromatics, there's fruit, there's floral, there's herb, and there's spice. So that's what we're gonna do with these different jars. One is vanilla, vanillin, if you will. It's not vanilla bean, it's not vanilla cheesecake, it's vanillin. It is wood, there it is for you. It is basically just oak. But we're gonna get into number 2. It fits in the same category. This is my favorite one.
Favorite, oh boy.
Oh boy!
Some grab a jar too.
I don't think I've ever smelled this.
This is because it's so fun because it does not smell like the way you think it's gonna smell. But like everybody, get into jar number 2.
I smell something funky, and I'll say it later, but I know it's not it. Well, I know it's not it.
Celery.
Celery seed. Yeah.
Celery.
Yeah.
You
Celery.
guys ruined it for me because now I just want celery.
I know. It's I'm sorry. There's so much manipulation.
You see it on
Sorry. I can tell
If you
you.
feel good about your exposure to jar number 2, or even 1 for that matter, help yourself into these other glasses. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no, like, I'm not gonna be like, you shouldn't have drank number 4 yet. Like, you're fine to drink these at your leisure.
Smell celery.
But pay attention to which one these particular jars are strongest in. It's important. Yes.
From breaking in?
You loud.
They agree that it's celery.
So we've heard celery. Anything else? Anyone else? What do you get for number 2? Curry.
You said curry.
Curry.
Spicy, yeah, sure.
What'd you say, Rob?
It's like a burnt butterscotch.
Burnt butterscotch.
Sweet noses and
That's what it's so good.
Ben, you're off the bio.
Try number 4.
The
No.
whiskey.
Are you want all the way down?
She just told me that's how I
You can taste them as you want to. Yeah. You can.
Peppermint?
On the 3?
On 2. Okay. So number 2. Number 2 and number 1 are fitting into, surprisingly, our sweet aromatic category. Sweet aromatics usually turns up as vanilla or dessert qualities, or your butterscotch, or your toffees, or your chocolates, or your things like that, right? It's not a fruit. It's none of this. It's none of that. It's a sweet aromatic. 2 is technically fitting into that because this is whiskey lactone is the chemical that is in number 2. Do not eat this one. Do not eat it. I don't think you can eat it and like not be sick from it. So don't eat it. Think you can eat it. But the beauty of whiskey lactone is that it presents itself as celery. And it presents itself as coconut. So you said curry, and it may be that pungent coconut note that comes through. Exactly. Go back to number 2. Do you smell coconut?
Yeah, now that you mention it.
Yeah, now we
So you
get
yeah, fine, good, fine.
You tell us.
Go back to your glasses of whiskey. Does one of these show jar number 2 more than another one?
Keep it down, Boone.
I'm so aggressive.
He told you about that?
All I'm getting is about 3 at first. We gotta sniff some more things out there.
I get a lot of lactone in 3.
What made it better was that Rick Kemper was in his office.
Yeah. Right? But you didn't probably go into glass number 3 up front and go like, I get notes of celery on this.
No.
No, you didn't.
Are we on 3 now?
Do you
We're
recommend?
just tasting through all of them.
Oh, I thought you were smelling. Do you
We're not on
recommend?
jar 3 yet. No, not yet.
If you do a tasting yourself, do you recommend
That's
doing
fair.
something like this to
Hell
get more
yeah.
out of it,
Hell
rather
yeah.
than just tasting?
What's
Yes.
weird is
Because
the
that's how you identify and lock in isolates. You know what I mean? It's important to do that. But it depends. Some of these aren't going to be super present in some of these. It just depends on the whiskey you're tasting. Right? Whiskey lactone as a chemical is more prevalent in American white oak in the cis form that is more aromatic. There's a cis and a trans form of whiskey lactone. They're just mirror images, the same kind of thing. You know all about cis and trans, you know all about the, you know all about the mirrors. I always do this, like the only dynamite, like it's the mirrors, but it is. But this is one of the huge benefits of American oak used for whiskey because you're getting so much more flavor out of it than you are with French oak. French oak is so much more nuanced and fragile is the best way to phrase it, without being offensive. So what you're getting in glass number 2, yeah, oak is oak. Oh, cool. Oak is vanilla, right? Oak's going to give you all kinds of stuff. But you didn't think that you were going to get celery out of it. You didn't think you were going to get coconut out of it. You didn't think that you were going to think about that one time you had that really amazing curry because you were really hungover and anything was going to taste good. Like, you didn't think about that moment. But now you will. You won't forget.
You got Taco Bell in a jar?
There's no Taco Bell jar, no. There's no Taco Bell jar. Okay, number 3 is a fun one. Let's get into number 3.
Oh, yeah.
Don't shout out what you think it is. Whatever you do, don't shout out what you think it is, but let's go back to those categories.
Yeah.
Easy
Don't
time.
say it. Oh.
Go back to the categories. Is this a sweet aromatic?
No.
Is this a fruit?
No.
Is this a flower?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
I don't know, you know.
it is.
Spice?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Spice. Okay. Isolate it down from there. What spice? spice. Yes, ma'am?
Tea tree oil.
No.
Okay, no one knows what the hell that is.
Pepper? I do.
It is pepper.
Pepper! We got one!
Do any of these glasses exude jar number 3? Taste them, smell them. Now that you've locked in black pepper in your mind.
I already did. That's fair.
Maybe the 4.
Okay, curious. Go to jar number 4. Go to jar number 4. Don't say what you think it is.
Sniff yourself.
Smell yourself.
Smell yourself. If you're like everything smells the same, smell your hand.
Oh, wow.
Petty
Whoa.
nose.
Ligma.
What? Okay, let's go through categories to help us figure out what it is. Unless, don't say what it is, but raise your hand if you think you know exactly what it is right off the bat.
Keep your head up, Petty.
Well, I know what it
Do
smells
you
like.
really think you know?
I know what it smells like. I don't know what it is.
Okay. No, that's fun. Okay, let's play that game for a second.
Oh, God.
What does it remind you of?
It smells like Vicks to me.
Oh, one guy in thought.
Yep.
Okay.
Grandma.
You pull at this. Get back in it again.
It smells like somebody put this up on my chest.
Yep.
This is such an interesting one. No one ever gets this one. Hey, let's eliminate though, right? That makes it easier. Is it a sweet aromatic?
No.
No. Is it a fruit? No. Is it an herb?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay, maybe. We can say maybe. Is it a spice?
Spice.
Is it a spice?
Smell like these
But I don't think
not really.
It smells like a herb.
Could be like.
Spicy floral?
Spicy flowers.
It's everything. It's literally all the jars together in one jar. It's like, do one of your whiskeys smell or taste more like jar number 4? Line up, and this is a note that derives from a barrel, so it makes sense if number 3 is strongest with this. It does play into the spice category, but spice has 2 routes. There's black spice and brown spice. The black spice we already had, we had black pepper. Brown spice is baking spice, and this isn't the most familiar. We think baking spice, we think like cinnamon or like whatever. This is nutmeg.
Fuck.
Oh. Get back in it.
Come on.
Emily.
This is fun. Okay. All right, jar number 5. It's gonna be an obvious one. Maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't know.
It's a
Well, you don't get this. That nose ain't good.
Jar number 5. Treat it with the system. What category is it?
Yes. Fruit, baby. Citrus fruit.
Fruit. Citrus? What are your citrus options?
Orange.
Tangerine.
Oh, orange, tangerine, grapefruit, lime, pomelo. I don't know.
It's definitely, it's a cutie orange.
Navel orange.
All right, help yourself. Go back into your samples. Smell your jar. Smell your whiskey. Which one has the most of this fruity notes? Citrusy notes. Orange is one of the flagship notes for every single one of these samples. So you should find it in all of them, even though in varying amounts. The younger the whiskey, the more it presents itself as orange oil, fresh, zesty, bright orange. The older the whiskey, the more you're compacting it with those sweet aromatics that the barrel's pulling out, right? So you're getting more orange marmalade where it's oxidized. You're getting like orange cake where you're really incorporating all of those sweet notes to it. But it's there in every single one of them. Every single one. Jar number 6, get in there.
Jar number
Get in
6.
there.
Strong.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's strong.
Ooh.
I know exactly what
Yes.
it is.
What is it? Don't say it or not.
Don't say it. You know what? Let's play a game.
You can't ask them.
Oh, wait a minute.
Another game. What does it remind you of?
The nerds candy lotion.
Lotion. Shampoo. Shampoo.
Yeah.
Floral.
Yeah, it's
What it reminds you of? Floral. It reminds you of a person, a place, a moment, an experience, a food.
reminds me of Hawaii.
Bath and Body Works.
Reminds you of Bath and Body Works. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you candles.
This is an experience. It's like a dollar bill experience. I've been here before.
You've been here before?
I think I've been to this place before. Yeah, I was there on Super Bowl night. I'm pretty sure I was.
If it smelled like that, you're in trouble.
Oh no! I know what it reminds me of. Yeah, we'll keep that as DL right now.
Super Bowl.
I have used like 4 different versions of the same notes, if you will, and every single time, no matter what, without fail, someone says Yankee Candle, no matter what.
Really?
Yeah, always.
Every smell of Yankee.
I'm telling you.
Who's feeding?
I'm telling you, she uses this.
Uncles.
I was looking at it. All right, get into your whiskey. Do you find this note in any of those whiskeys?
Whiskey?
Surprise, it's not in there. Huh.
Remember what whiskey?
That's what
Number what?
It's like a banana peel.
It's so similar.
Number 4.
Oh yeah. More big time.
Yeah.
That's number 1 a little bit.
Jar number 6 is present in all 4 whiskeys, but in varying amounts and in different formats. So if you smell it in all of them, you're not wrong. It's in higher concentrations in some over the others.
That's a good participation trophy.
This one is interesting because this isn't an essential oil. This is an isolate for natural perfumery for green apple, actually. Oh. Go back into it. This is not your Jolly Rancher green apple.
No.
This is apple peel. This is dry, sharp bitterness. Herbal essence. The herbal essences. Okay. We're gonna step away from the jars for just a second. Okay? Or not like you don't have to like step, but just like leave the jars sit there. You got 3 left. They might be fun. One of them is not going to be fun. So just a warning. But it's necessary. It's probably the most useful one in the whole lot.
Number 2.
But let's go back. If you have whiskey left, which I hope you have at least a tiny little bit left. Okay, let's go back through these. So we've isolated a lot of shit so far, right? We've talked about fruits. We've talked about spices. We've talked about all kinds of stuff. So go back to glass number 1 and just give it a smell. What is the number 1 note that stands out to you in number 1? Number 1. It's vanillin. And number 1?
Yeah.
Go to glass number 2. What's the number 1 and number 2? You can smell it side by side with 1 too. Yeah.
You were talking about the whiskey, not
the whiskey. Yeah, not jar number 1. Yeah. Oh my God! He's like, I got it right.
We're live.
The orange in number 1.
Number 2.
I lost my
Number
invitation
2?
for next year.
Between the orange and the orange and the green apple.
The fruitiness in number 1 is very strong.
Vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the fruitiness.
I had too much
Vanilla
gas.
is
That's what it was.
killing it for me here.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. What about number 3? What's number 3? What is the primary note when you pick up glass number 3? What does it shout out to you?
That's still swallowing.
You're getting black pepper in number 3.
The question for you is, if I messed up my before, can you tell the difference?
Oh, he's so
I think if I put that on one spot earlier, probably.
she can do that.
Yeah, I can. I mean, which one is warmer in the throat? Because there's a big proof difference between 3 and 4.
If you don't know
Take a
that.
sip.
If you don't know that.
You're out of
Yeah.
You're out of the club.
Go in the corner.
There's a big, like 4 is a lot. Yep, that's probably number 4.
Roy.
Whatever number stays are probably number 4.
This one's super sweet.
Yeah, I get.
Yeah.
You're trying to
Yeah,
guess. You're trying to guess what it is.
I
feel like it tasted. Which one?
4's got a little snark to it.
Yeah, I
You
like
might
that.
to, but first time
That's make you up and stuff like
Right.
Hey,
So
boom.
we have black pepper on number 3. We got a lot of fruitiness coming in number 1 and number 2. Number 4 has a lot of heat on the finish for sure.
Four.
I get most black pepper on the foot.
Okay, cool.
I like 3.
Jar number 7.
You don't sound excited.
Yeah.
I love jar number 7 personally. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but
love all my jars the same.
you like interesting things
I need to
though.
make one of these jar kits.
What does it remind you of? Not what is it? Does it remind you of a person, a place, an experience, a thing, something?
An older
If
person.
you say that.
Imagine an older person.
My wife just uses essential oil.
The closet.
Grandma's.
Grandma's closet.
Okay?
Springtime.
Springtime.
Get out of the closet.
Lavender.
Dryer
Dryer sheets.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, dryer sheets is a good one.
Who said that?
That's a really good one.
Lavender dry.
I like that.
I'm getting better, guys.
You're getting better.
As long as I know which one to smell.
Fresh linen. It really goes like up, one, down, up, one, down.
So, can we give it a category?
Floral.
Floral, perfect, wonderful. Does anyone know exactly what it is?
Lilac.
It's not lilac.
Dandelion.
Jasmine?
Dandelion.
Not jasmine? So you're close, jasmine, you're closer than
Hibiscus.
hibiscus, you're going
Now
there.
you're just making it.
I don't.
I'm going rose.
That's okay, we're learning flowers.
Uh-oh.
We're learning flowers. Bless you.
Whoa.
You reset the whole palette.
Alright, smell jar number 7 and go back into your whiskeys. Does it show up more in one whiskey over the other?
Ooh, that totally changed the nose.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Now it's stuck in your nostrils.
Yeah.
See?
And now this one, yeah. I
didn't
didn't
even taste the
get
drink.
too much in it.
Don't taste the drink.
Go number
Don't
4,
eat the bad
and I
one.
went straight from the floral to number 4.
Who's eating Canton?
Totally changed my
You don't
drinking
feel
nose
like you have to say that with this group.
Made the whiskey.
I shouldn't have had to say it with
You
this
shouldn't
group,
have to say it.
but there's always someone that gets curious.
I can't believe somebody
Where do they get the curious guy?
Does it stand out in one of these more than another?
Number 3.
Number
The
3.
smell is so strong.
Which one did you find the most orange in?
3. That's
I don't remember.
This is orange blossom in jar number 7. Heads up. So the floral notes that are most commonly perceived in whiskey anyways are more red notes, rose, especially like oxidized rose, like that bouquet you just can't throw away, but you know it's time, like it starts to smell like rotted flowers. Like that note is present in bourbon quite a bit. Jasmine shows up quite a bit in whiskey as well. Jasmine fits into kind of the white floral zone, right? You get into lilac and lavender, you go into that purple zone. But this is how you break it down. When you go into a glass of whiskey, floral is usually for New World whiskey because oak is so prevalent as a note in New World whiskey, and by that I mean American whiskey, that floral usually isn't the first thing that pops out, but if you force yourself to find it, so to put the jars away, get out of the jars and get into your whiskey and just think floral only. Only floral. What floral note do I find in that glass? Does it smell like a white flower, a red flower, a purple flower, a yellow flower?
More flowers.
So did you find any floral notes in your whiskey?
I think 4 and 3.
You think 4 and 3?
Like Savannah, I need to smell more flowers.
That's good.
Nah.
Because up until this
Flower
point,
smeller.
no one said I smell
Just go
floral,
walk through
fill in the blank, whatever, in any one of these
Acme's floral
glasses.
section.
You have to force your brain to focus on find the floral. It's there. It might be small, but it's there, right? We can go into jar number 8. This is a fun one.
Literally fucking struggling.
Did you say that?
Everyone like, this is fun.
This is a fun one though.
This is so fun.
Meanwhile, my nose working.
Oh my gosh.
That's easy.
I know that.
Drink it.
Yeah.
What category is jar number 8? A spice. It's a spice?
Like Earl.
Is it a spice?
I thought we were doing what?
So we've got chinchillas, alfalfa, green hay bales, hay.
My favorite, by the way, it's not like chinchilla poop, it's alfalfa is in chinchilla cake.
Roy and I were saying
So,
tea.
it smells like alfalfa.
Boom.
I'm with you guys.
That's it.
Which also smells
I
like
get a
tea.
ton of it
It smells
before.
tea.
Is it tea?
Number 8 is tea.
Perfect.
Nice.
4 gives me a lot.
Alfalfa tea.
Chinchilla.
Yeah, what whiskey's showing a lot of tea
Oh, I
today?
love that one.
Oh, that's strong.
So, tea kind of fits in a weird niche, right? It's kind of this herb category, but it's like an oxidized
No, it's good.
category,
It's
so kind of play with it wherever you want, but it's interesting. It does read more grassy than anything else, the alfalfa note for sure.
It's strong.
I'll think about the time that he could definitely.
The grassiness
He could do
will,
grass mill in a barn that's
I guess,
2 days.
fall off.
In the hot sun.
The older the whiskey gets, the more the grassiness kind of like.
When it's serious, when it's fish notes,
Jar number 9 should not be in any of these whiskey samples. Jar number 9, I'll say this again, should not be present in any of these whiskey samples. Every single jar that we've had up to this point has been an isolate. that is there to help connect your brain with a tasting note. 9 is not a note you ever want to find in your whiskey, ever. And it only comes from 2 different sources. The reason I included 9 into this kit was because you guys are obviously into whiskey, you're in Louisville, you're doing the thing, you're picking barrels, like you've got samples. This is a really important defect to isolate if you're a consumer of alcohol in general. Anybody a wine drinker?
Nope.
You ever had a corked bottle of wine?
A red wine, yeah.
Hey, when we bought.
Yeah, you get mushroom, you get, yeah.
Bingo. So the note of this is not mushroom, but I will tell you, the note of mushroom, and some people write it as such in their tasting notes too. Some brands are like, oh, it's porcini mushroom. It's like, well, that's fungus. That's fungus. Everybody's mold. It's mold. That's exactly what it is. So, what you have in jar number 9, Geosmin, Geosmin. It is basically wet basement, if you will.
Yeah.
Get into it.
I was gonna say that.
It can come from 2 places, okay? It can come from your grain. So if you do not test your grain for fungus before you actually use it, it will carry through. There is no blending it out. There's no aging it out. It is there no matter what. Or it can come if there's a cork enclosure on a whiskey. So if you do buy whiskeys that have corks on them, it actually can be corks. This is a real thing. It's 1 in 1 million corks are corked in whiskey bottles. So it's important to identify it though, because if you go to a store and buy a bottle of whiskey and you're like, this got a mushroom note, yeah, it fucking does. It absolutely does. Not everybody can pick up on it. So it's important to lock it into your brain. So this is my, I know it doesn't smell so good. This is my public service announcement jar for you guys. If to return your whiskey if it ever smells like this, but very good.
Here's a question.
It's not gonna
So
hurt you.
we've done a lot of vintage whiskeys. There's the same note in all of them. It has that same old grandma's
dresser
attic
drawer.
dresser drawer vision to it. Is that
That's not the same.
okay?
So that note is okay.
You're not gonna die. You're all right.
No, well, maybe. I'm not gonna blanket statement that you won't. But
Yeah, you can drop.
I'm dead.
in that old dresser drawer, right?
Yeah.
I'm in an antique mall and I open up this drawer and I'm like, oh my god, it smells like that dusty whiskey bottle that I have.
Yeah.
Because that is just stale oxidized wood. Sugar is all it is. Literally, that's a bunch of booze and sugar. Sugar is what oak is. That's all it is. So, dusty bottles, if you will, are always going to have that old paper note to them, if you will. It's not wrong. But corks can deteriorate. It can be corked. But there's also a lot of things that they didn't test for before 1984 in distilled spirits. I don't drink dusty bottles that were bottled or distilled before 1984, if that means anything to you.
They drank a lot of them.
Thanks a lot.
Everybody,
Damn.
try this one, everybody.
Hey, drink up that collection there.
I mean, if you have like a sip, like fine. If you're like, I only drink 1982 Old Crow, like,
So what
maybe
you're
we find a
saying
better.
is just keep them as like a historical
No, do
thing.
your thing, but just know that like
tell
the
you
distilled
what.
spirits industry has changed a lot since
Battery
1984.
acid.
When we do quality analysis, everything is at 40 proof. Everything across the board, no matter what. That is where all the defects show up. Otherwise, you're gonna miss it. What you'll notice on the market is that now that the high proof trend has really caught on, there's a lot of not so ideal barrels that get hidden in higher proof expressions because you won't taste porcini mushroom because it's high proof. It's interesting. So, I mean, you have water, like add some water back to these and kind of see what happens, but it's you're dead on about that though. Like absolutely that is part of it. They are all Forester.
I had water before. They got all Forester. Wait a minute.
No, who knew?
I thought you were pretty good.
She did.
That's the question about.
Alright. Bourbon number 1.
Supposed to know so.
I know, what's it supposed to say? There.
We're on edge. We're on edge.
It's interesting because it shouldn't be this. Barrel number 1 is the President's Choice Barrel number 21 expression.
Holy shit.
So that's a 9-year-old Old Forester single barrel.
President's choice?
Yep.
Which president?
Yeah, Roy, you just got excited,
I
didn't you,
pick them and
buddy?
then I get
I
the
was hoping that
camera
earlier.
sign off on it. I get option.
President
President.
Which president take this?
Exactly.
9 years ago.
We don't support him.
Because we don't support him.
I like number one. I love this.
No,
They're all good.
Yeah. Number 2 came from the Whiskey Row Fire Alarm number 2 single barrel we did through the distillery. So it is 100 proof. You've got that on the bottle, but that one was a 5-year-old Old Forester. So that is the 9-year-old and then a 5-year-old. Barrel number 3 is Birthday Bourbon 2019.
Birthday bourbon!
Wow.
I knew I tasted it from somewhere.
And then number 4 is just a regular old single barrel, completely raw, unfiltered at barrel strength. That one was called the Corner Piece of Cake. The reason for that being is that when I tasted it, I was like, man, this tastes like, like, I'm not a corner cake person. I don't know, it's a rare breed. You like the middle piece, you like the corner piece, you like the edge piece, like with all the icing.
Yeah, too much going on in the corners.
I like pie.
Okay.
As you water number 4 back, that icing note just like comes up out of it. So, corner piece of cake.
We've been talking about cakes.
Sorry, new one, so we can
Number 2
try ours.
Yeah, you want to try?
Yeah, let's try it, for sure.
Try new one.
Here.
They do all the talking, I do all the editing.
Who's 2? Number 2. 4. Anyone barrel strength? Single barrel?
I'll do 4.
I added water. Which one do I need to taste for? Which one's your favorite? What's the best?
The Buffalo Trace. Everyone's a big one.
But I also lean more this way too.
I have another question for you.
What's that?
What would you recommend to get something like this? Make your own, or how would you go about? You made your own.
I made that too.
She said build it to what you're tasting. Don't just do a general one because it may not be what you're drinking.
So, I mean, I know you see some online where it's like they got 30 different the kids and 30 different.
What I do is build it with like 2 slices, 2 fruits, sweet ones, so you have a little bit of everything.
Or you just come out with a Jackie approves another kid. You can go ahead and market it. You could do that.
I'll come on now.
There you go.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Oh yeah.
It is. Stuff like that.
What's your favorite one?
It's interesting to go from 126 proof to 90 proof. We'll throw that out there. But it's got that red hot cinnamon note to it. You know what happening? That's a good barrel. It's good.
We're happy with it. See, that one we were happy with.
We weren't unhappy with any, but for me, the Buffalo Trace, that's why I got 12 bottles.
The Buffalo Trace kind of took.
I like it.
I like
I think a lot of people like it too.
it. There's a nice little cherry note to it.
Put anything.
No, it's good. It's a good barrel.
As we all pressure her into saying she likes it, we'll watch her drink our
Tell me
barrels.
next
No, she's trying our barrels.
No.
This was our first one we've ever done.
This one.
We picked this all
I
unanimous.
like that one.
Yes, this one we all picked.
This one was good.
We blindly raised our hands and we all voted on this one.
You should be better than
No, I like
I tried them side by side. Both times I picked Buffalo.
that eagle. That night he brought it home and seen the cold. That's their school.
the cold is good.
I like the buffalo better than the eagle.
I said the same thing. And the thing is, so I didn't pick we actually I hated it. I think I got the wrong one because like I hated it, everybody loved it. It makes no sense. I took it home and I tried them side by side. I picked Buffalo all the time. So I don't get it.
This one is fine, but there's a dryness to it. It's not as sweet, and I prefer sweeter. And there's like this, like a bitter molasses note to the eagle. That's not there in the Tigerblood.
I'm not a big eagle fan.
Definitely gets aware in like a rick house, like assessing like liquid, like in the sun. You're like, what the fuck are you doing? Man, last time your house. I wanted to. No one does that.
I like number 3 a lot. So this is the birthday bourbon, right?
Yeah,
I like number 3.
Well, I actually probably Joe.
You think so?
No. That wasn't it. No. How close is that?
Oh, you're close. You got about this much.